the Acolyte. And yeah, this was an interesting show, to say the least. Yeah, I mean, I guess going into it, I thought it would be more of like a darker, more intense mystery. They were kind of advertising it as, this kind of rising presence in the dark side. There's like these murders that are happening. This is supposed to be like a time of peace. It's supposed to be the High Republic, at least according to Kiadi-Mundi, who gets brought up later in the show for some reason, but I'll get to that later, in Phantom Menace, saying that, the Republic's been at peace for over 1,000 years. So you kind of going into the show thinking that, all the protagonists are going to be killed off, but, it doesn't quite happen. But yeah, just to start off, like I said earlier, they're kind of advertising it as, there's like these murders going on, all these Jedi are being killed off, and, there's this like group of Jedi led by Sol, played by jung-jae, who's kind of leading this investigation to find out like who's causing all these murders. And it, kind of slowly but surely gets revealed that May is the one who's causing all these murders to be happening. And there's like suspicions that she's leaning towards the dark side and that she's working for some kind of dark side user or Sith, which gets brought up later, just casually dropped by Manji Ito's character, Kamir. Spoiler alert, Kamir turns out to be this dark side user, or, like I said earlier, drops casually like, oh yeah, he's a Sith. So that's what I thought the show was going to be. And that maybe like halfway through, Sol and May would team up in order to figure out like who this grand Sith master is, and then, bring him to justice. But maybe they wouldn't survive. And maybe this Sith master would, end up being Darth Plagueis. And that would kind of tie into Plagueis being the new Sith master, and then maybe kind of end with him seeking out a new apprentice, which would end up being Palpatine. And that would kind of set up the events for Phantom Menace, but that didn't quite happen. So I guess, the big reveal in the show is that May actually has a twin named Osha. And another big reveal is that they're virgins in the Force, and that their mother, Anastasia, and their other mother Coral, use the Force, or the thread, I guess what they call it in this show, to create life. And that life was able to split into two, so they had twins. And then, it gets revealed, spoiler, in the finale, that they're not technically twins, they're just the same person, just split up into two parts. So I guess that kind of takes the specialness out of the fact that Anakin in the Phantom Menace was the first virgins in the Force. Midichlorians were manipulated to create life within Shmi Skywalker, and then, he became the chosen one and everything. But, I guess now that kind of takes the specialness out of him. Also kind of takes the specialness out of him of being the chosen one, with the Emperor resurrecting in Red Skywalker and then Rey defeating him and everything. But, so we won't go over that. But yeah, I just think the main complaint with the show is that, it just breaks a lot of canon, kind of like what I was saying earlier with Kiadi-Mundi. Like, I know his birthday doesn't get mentioned in the movies, and, that's technically like G canon, George Lucas canon, and his species lifespan is explained in like expanded universe and everything like that. But I know some aspects are still canon. So I know there's the whole controversy of that, Kiadi-Mundi's birthday was changed so that he could actually appear in the show, which just kind of raises a lot more questions than there needs to be. They could have just had a completely different Jedi, didn't even have to be Kiadi-Mundi in there. But yeah, that kind of just breaks the canon of, there being peace within the Republic for 1,000 years and no mentions of a Sith. And even if there was a Sith, all the Jedi would be wiped out. But clearly this whole conspiracy is the whole kind of premise of the show, is that, like I said before, May and Osha are born to NSA and Curl through manipulation of the thread, and they're kind of like the new chosen ones. So when Sol and the other Jedi kind of go out to find them, the sense of strong presence of the Force, they want them to become Jedi. They try to recruit them, but obviously NSA and Curl and the rest of the witches, or whatever their race is called, don't have anything to do with the Jedi because they're kind of like enemies. So they kind of forbid Osha and May from leaving. I mean, they let her test to make sure, if they're really, Force sensitive, and obviously May pretends to flunk the test, and then Osha succeeds. So then Sol wants to recruit Osha to become the new Jedi apprentice. Then obviously May and the other sisters and the mothers don't want anything to do with that. So Coral just tells her like, get angry. And so she does, like, yeah, I'm gonna get angry, and I'm gonna start a fire and destroy my home and everything like that, even though it's a stone structure and wouldn't catch on fire. But oh well. Then we get to episode 7, where we get the whole twist that, Anastasia was actually going to send Osha with Sol the whole time and everything like that. And, it's just a whole misunderstanding. And, when, the Night Sisters are trying to attack the Jedi and everything, use their mind manipulation powers to have the Jedi turn against each other and fight each other off and everything. Sol is trying to defend his fellow Jedi. So, ignites his lightsaber and then stabs Anastasia because she's about to turn into this big smoke monster and trying to evaporate Osha and everything. So he stabs her and she dies. dies, and then, he tries to go save Osha. May sees the whole thing, tries to go and tell Osha, who's escaped from her room when it's like being caught on fire and everything. They reunite. They're on that kind of bridge that, kind of breaks in the center, so they can't get to each other. And then since the structure is shaking everything, it's about to fall down, Sol comes in. He's not strong enough in the force to save both of them, so he has to let May go. And then, she obviously survives and builds up the vengeance, everything like that. And then saves Osha, brings her in as the apprentice, and then hides the secret and everything like that. And then as this story goes on, more and more gets revealed about their past and everything, which is kind of another aspect, which is like, I feel like this could have just been a movie, maybe just like a 2.5 hour movie or something, or just like a 6 episode series, kind of like what I was saying with other shows and everything. Like this could have just been just a really short season. Didn't need to set up for a season 2 or anything like that, which we'll get to in a second, the full finale and everything like that. Just because some episodes just really felt like they could have just been combined into one episode. Like literally these episodes are just maybe like 30-35 minutes. These could have been like hour-long episodes, and then maybe you could have just like 4 hour-long episodes or something. Like the whole flashback episodes, like episode 3 and episode 7 really could have just been like a couple minutes, maybe like 10 minutes in the beginning. And then if you want to expand it, have episode 7 be a little bit longer flashback. But yeah, just the tone of the show, the acting was just very flat. The writing was very flat. Like there was just no suspense. Nothing really kept me on the edge of my seat. Maybe there's some surprises here and there, but really like everything was really predictable. Like a lot of like, YouTube channels I follow who, like give their theories and everything like that. Like everything was like, oh yeah, obviously this is going to happen. And then it happened in the next episode. I was like, okay, well, there's no surprise there. It's like, you're not really setting up a good mystery if people can kind of predict what the next steps are going to be and everything like that. It's not really engaging. So that was kind of like a fault of the show for sure. I thought the action was really cool, especially episode 5, the whole lightsaber duel with, the big reveal that Kamir turns out to be Smilo Ren, as people call it, or the Stranger I know is his official name. So I thought that was cool. I think, the strongest parts were definitely Mei Jacinto as the Stranger and Li Jung-jae as Sol. You can tell like they're carrying this whole show on their backs and everything because like they weren't getting anything from these other actors. So they're just like very flat, very obvious, just not very engaging. But I like their characters. I thought they were really cool. It's too bad that Sol ended up getting killed off, but I guess we'll see what happens with season 2. I have no idea if we're gonna get a season 2. I guess jumping into the finale, the whole twist is that Vanestra Rao finds out about this whole conspiracy. Her and her fellow Jedi, go to the planet of Brendok to go confront May, Sol, Kamir, and Osha. So they find them, May, Osha, and Kamir are on the run. May decides to stay behind and kind of take the fall, and Kamir kind of uses the Force on May to like wipe her memory, so she has no idea like what happened since she was 8 years old. So then she gets taken into custody, and then Osha turns to the dark side. You get the whole reveal that Sol killed Anastasia. So then Osha turns to the dark side, because she already had those dark side tendencies within her anyway. Because that was the whole reason why she couldn't be Sol's apprentice at the beginning, because she had these dark side tendencies. So she turned away from the Jedi Council and everything like that. So she turns to the dark side. The kyber crystal in her lightsaber after she steals it from Sol turns from blue to red. So that indicates that she's a dark side user. And then she goes off with Kamir. Very Last Jedi fan fiction-y tone, that whole storyline that's going on since episode 6 or whatever it was, since the whole Parent Trap switcheroo, which was kind of ridiculous too, with May knocking Osha out, and then May using lightsaber to cut her hair perfectly straight so she looks just like Osha with the whole switcheroo and everything. But anyway, yeah, so get to the finale. May and Kamir are like working together. Osha's holding the lightsaber, and then Kamir puts his hand over it, so it's kind of like this forbidden romance kind of thing, like this Last Jedi fan fiction between like Rey and Kylo and all this stuff. So we'll see if we get a season 2. If you could just go on social media, like the hate for the show is definitely very eminent. Some of it's very like unfounded, but some of it's kind of legitimate, because this show just really isn't that great. I mean, if they do get a season 2, like they really just need writers who can tell like a good mystery and everything. Get the writers from like True Detective or something to write this show. Just get more engaging characters, story, plot, twists, themes, tension, build that mystery out. So I don't know if Leslie Headland will stay for another season. Maybe she will. Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger and Disney, I feel like they just don't really care about the fans at this point. They just care about pushing their own agendas and everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a season 2, but yeah, I don't know if I'd watch it, because after this season ended, like I wasn't like on the edge of my seat, like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? And then, the whole scene with like Vanestra Rao meeting with Yoda, for reinforcement, seeing the back of Yoda's head and everything. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, if if they do get a season 2, there's just going to be a lot of redirection, so to speak, to make it fit within the continuity that was established in Phantom Menace. So we'll see if that happens. But yeah, I guess there's not really too much left I have to say about the show. I think I've kind of just laid it all out on the table. Yeah, like overall, it just wasn't a great show. Like I wasn't trying to go into the show like hating it or anything, but yeah, I definitely didn't love it while I was watching it. Tried my patience a lot watching the show. It kind of reminded me of like She-Hulk back in the day, just going from episode to episode, expecting it to get better, but either just staying the same or getting worse as it went. Good things, Lee Jung-jae as Sol was good, but he's dead now, so we'll see what happens with that. May Jacinto as the Stranger was awesome, but I don't really care for Amanda Stenberg as Osha at this point. Just don't really think she's that great of an actress. Or maybe just the writing, I don't know about her acting, but yeah, or the direction that she had, but yeah, so don't really care much for where they're taking that character. And the action was cool, all the fight scenes were cool, the beginning action scene was cool, like the hand-to-hand combat with, getting Carrie-Anne Moss in there, little Matrix reference, because at first I thought, when they had her for like the first 5 minutes and she gets killed off, I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of a waste of a character, but then they kind of kept bringing her back for like the flashbacks and stuff, the same with Dean Charles Chapman, when they killed him off, I was like, oh, dang, well, that's kind of a waste. Or like Kilnaka when May goes to his planet and then sees him in his hut and like you see the lightsaber slash on him, and then he was like, wait, what the heck? Weren't we supposed to get like a wiki fight? And then, we get that later in episode 7 with the whole flashback and stuff like that. So it was still kind of cool, seeing it, but yeah, it just wasn't as cool. I think definitely the peak was episode 5 for sure. Seeing that whole fight and everything, Khmer in the forest and all the Jedi, killing off Yord because I didn't care about his character. But I did feel bad for Jecki. I thought she was a pretty okay character. It's too bad she got killed off, because there's so many characters in Star Wars who get stabbed once and then they come back, like Reva or Sabine or something. So you have to stab them 3 times to make sure that they're dead. So yeah, I felt bad for Jecki for getting killed off because I thought she was pretty cool. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I have to say about the show. Again, we'll see what happens with season 2, but just based on the response that Disney and Star Wars have been getting, just from like the negativity of the show, like maybe they shouldn't risk making a season 2 unless they, like I said before, just hire some really good writers and directors to take on the mantle and stuff like that. But yeah, those are my overall thoughts on The Acolyte. Obviously I had a lot to say, but yeah, we'll see how it goes in the future.